Welcome to the lesson on the organelles part 2. This one we're going to draw the cell and we're going to learn them that way. Again, I'm going to repeat what I've said before. You can't learn that many new words just by seeing them once. I mean, maybe you're an ultra genius and you can. Most people can't. So but it has to happen multiple times and it'll then go into your brain and it'll kind of, oh, yeah, that circuit will be strengthened. And so endoplasmic reticulum, when you hear it a few times, pretty soon it just becomes second nature and you know it. And that's my goal on this. But keep in mind, it isn't just to learn the words, it's to learn what they do in the cell is really where we're going. So the cell will make sense. And so to give you a little, forecast, like I mentioned before, after we get finished with this, we're going to be getting a project where you make a cell model. It'll help with it. And after that, we're going to start getting into the processes of how it functions, using the DNA to control what happens in the cell. And then we're going to get to heredity and how genetics works, right? That's where we're going with this in the long run. So, but, in order to really understand what DNA is, which I know you've all heard of it, I want you to see what is going on, what it does. It's inside every cell of our body, controlling that individual cell's function by making proteins. Proteins are the microscopic machines that do the work and form most of the structure within an animal cell. And so what we're going to do now is take a different modality. Instead of it just being visual and writing it down, I'm going to have you draw it and write it down. And so get your piece of paper ready. Okay. Call it Organelles Part 2. And on this one, it's mostly going to be, if I draw it, you got to draw it. All right? So go ahead and get your paper ready, and then we'll start. Okay, so on your paper, then, you want to title it Organelles. By the way, you all know that in the human body and every other complex organism, there are certain things called organs, right? Like your heart, your liver, your lungs. Well, tiny little organs inside the cells are called organelles. Part 2. So go ahead and write that on the top of the paper. Yes, I want you to have this in your notebook, so you have it to refer to. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do here is mention there's two things that are inside of a plant cell that aren't inside of an animal cell. This is a review of what we did before, that concept. And remember, plant cells have a more rigid structure, right? And they sort of line up like bricks like this. And again, I really wish we could be in the classroom to use microscopes, but So they kind of look like this. And each one of these is the cell. And these have all the stuff that the animal cells have. We're not going to draw it here. But there's two things that plant cells have. Plant cells. And what a plant cell has that an animal cell doesn't have, it has like the nucleus. Okay, but that's like animal cells have that too. And it has endoplasmic reticulum and it has all that kind of stuff. But what is this thing called? This rigid structure that kind of is on the outside of the membrane is inside of this thing here. That's right. It's called the cell wall. Okay. So the plants have a cell wall, and they also have inside of them these little green doodads, these little structures here. They're kind of equivalent of the mitochondria, and this is where the photosynthesis happens. It would have the chlorophyll in it and stuff, and again, I wish we could look at it under the microscope to see them. They are called chloroplasts. Chloro means green, right? Like chlorine is a green gas. Chlorophyll, chloroplast. And a plast means like a little body, a little thing. So they're like green bodies inside there, okay? And so there you go. And now I'm not going to have those on a test or anything of that sort, but I want you to know about them, especially if you make a plant cell. Those can end up being pretty cool. Make sure you have those two things in there. Yes, they also have a big vacuole and stuff, but let's not worry about that. Okay, that's the plant cell for you. Now, I'm turning mine over. You don't have to, but I can't reach the camera without it. So you can just do it underneath it. We're going to do an animal cell.